Welcome to episode 81 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV show, anime, manga, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined by Kyle Springer.
Hello, howdy, happy Halloween. What is going on?
It is Halloween.
Yeah.
Boo to you, Kyle. We didn't come up with any kind of treehouse of horror names for ourselves this year.
I don't think I have a name that is conducive to horror, spooky stuff. Kyle Springer.
Kyle Springheel Jack.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. You can't be like it's Kyle Boo Springer or something, or like Zombie Kyle.
Kyle Boo Springer.
Just
You're right. That is the least you could do.
yeah.
I've got Malice a Kilkinson, but
Yeah.
it's kind of weird when you have to actually write it down. So that's why I don't
Yeah.
put it on Twitter or anything.
Yeah. Let's see. Could you no?
Yeah.
You could almost do something like Monster Wilkinson, but that seems like way too generic.
Yeah.
I've like thought of it of just like
I like
kinda
Malice,
wanna
but it
do
doesn't work
that.
when you write it down.
But yeah, then it never works out for me. Do you have any Halloween plans?
Our usual bar trivia night is Thursday, so we're just gonna go to bar trivia like usual, and hopefully this one is spooky themed.
Yeah, hopefully.
I'm gonna wear a costume. We invited another friend along who's gonna be wearing a costume. I don't know what anybody else at this bar is going to be doing. We'll just see what kind of a night we have.
There you go. Sounds fun to me. I have nothing planned. I think the only kind of Halloween horror stuff that I'm gonna be doing is the stuff we've been doing right here on the podcast. I am in costume right now. I am Jughead from Riverdale. I have his beanie, I have his jacket, and I have the shirt. The plan is the next couple years. I was actually Jughead last year too, but I only had the t-shirt and the hat. So I was a much more casual Jughead, and now I'm Southside Serpents Jughead. Next year I might do a zombie version, the one from Afterlife with Archie, because those comics are super great. Or I might go the classic route. Who knows?
Classic.
Yeah. Classic route. I need to do one where I just have a cheese burger.
Oh, just eating a burger all night.
Right? I was thinking about getting like the dog toy, like just like a cheeseburger shaped dog toy, so that way it like won't go bad if I like just have the thing sitting there, right? It's just a toy.
You could just, I'm sure there's like cheap, like $1, like the McDonald's cheeseburger. How much is the plain cheeseburger? What's that? Like $1.25?
Yeah, but
just get a bag of those. You just pull a burger out of a satchel periodically
burgers
throughout the night.
You want cheeseburgers? I got bacon cheeseburger.
You put like a heat pack in there so they stay warm.
And icy hot.
It's like Napoleon Dynamite with all the tater tots in his like cargo pants pocket.
Jughead, give me your burgers. No, get your own. Sounds good. Sounds fun. You have on your witch's hat, and you have a like floral. You had on a dress. I think last time for the captain's log. And this time it looks more like I have a
lot of floral things.
It looks more like a scarf or something.
Yep, big old scarf.
Like that. I think it is.
Because I know if you're dressing up for seasonal. 2 podcasts in a row,
Well,
Thank you. So I'm like, I'm not going to change. I'm just going to wear what I wore today. And then I show up and you're all dressed up. And I'm like, okay, give me a minute. I've got a hat. I've got a
Halloween
scarf.
episode, Melissa, come on. You can do it. All right, what are we talking about this week, Melissa?
We are talking about quite a spooky movie. This is called Ghost Stories. This is a 2017 film from British writers and directors Jeremy Dyson and Andy Nyman. This is based off a stage play. I really went into this not knowing anything else about it. Like, a YouTuber recommended it to me, and I'm like, good, that's all I need. I'm going in blind, and this really turned out to be quite different than what I was expecting.
There you go. Yeah, so when you pitched this to me last week, I immediately thought it, and then you confirmed it when you said it. This really reminds me of the Black Tapes, whereas there is a paranormal investigator who is trying to debunk a whole bunch of psychics and people who are like, oh, I've seen a ghost before. It's real. Ghosts are real. And he's like, bollocks. That's not true. And yeah, this movie is kind of an anthology of stories. It has like 3 short stories in there. So that's why I was like, oh, this reminds me of the Black Tapes podcast. Which is fantastic, and if you have not checked it out, you absolutely should go check that out. So that's why I picked it. Also because I think this one sounded the spookiest, and I was like, I'm gonna kind of go out of my comfort zone here and pick something I think is going to scare me. So what did you think? Because we both kind of went in on this blind. What were you expecting? What did you end up with?
It's not exactly an anthology film, because I feel like the definition of an anthology film is there is just a basic framework that supports these 3 self-contained stories. And this movie, it's like it had these 3 separate dedicated segments to them, but otherwise, like, it's not just a framing device. Like, that is the real story of the movie. That's where the real meat is. So much more time is spent within this larger frame of the paranormal investigator than within each of the segments themselves. I think also an anthology film is like, you've got different like writers or directors for each segment also, and this was all just the same people.
Yeah.
So they're stylistically pretty similar. You might still be able to classify it as an anthology movie, but I don't think it really fits the mold of what other films like that are. So that was just a structural thing that surprised me. And this whole thing is weirder than I was expecting. Yeah. In a different kind of weird than I was expecting.
Took a turn that I wasn't expecting. So that was interesting, to say the least.
Did you find it scary?
So I have to say, overall, I don't think I liked this film. I'm generally speaking not a fan of horror, but that's not because I don't think the genre is good or that there can't be like good horror stories. I don't like being scared. I'm a big baby. I'm just gonna be like, oh my god. And hide behind my hands or a pillow or something. So I don't find being scared fun and stuff like that. So I can really only do like horror comics and stuff like that. This ended up not being scary for me almost at all. It was.
I also found that it wasn't very scary, which isn't to say that it let me down on that front.
It was a little bit more
different than what I was expecting.
Than I was expecting.
Yeah.
So it was interesting for sure, but yeah, I don't think I liked this. That being said, it's based off of a stage play, and I think I would love it as a stage play. I think if
Yeah.
If I had seen this like going to a theater and there's actors on stage and there's set, like I think that experience would fit this story so much better than just like, hey, here's a movie. So that's I mean, what can you do? I am not able to experience it like that, so I have to judge it based off of the movie.
I don't know if this is a play that might show up again in the future. If this is a sort of thing that like your own regional theater might buy the rights to and produce sometime, or if it was really just a thing these couple guys did once.
Yeah, who knows?
But I'd like to see it live too.
Yeah.
It definitely does things that I have. I think I've never seen another play do exactly.
Interesting.
Some of the stuff they do in this movie,
dive into that.
I can see shades of, and
I'm gonna want to dive into that once we get into spoilers and stuff. What you mean
Some of the things they do in this movie, I can see shades of in other movies, but not. There's some of the things this movie does I don't think I've ever seen on stage in the genre, in the medium of a live stage play, which narratively isn't terribly different from a movie, but still, I've never seen these in a play. I'd like to see them live.
Sure. There you go. So let's do a brief synopsis as usual, and then we will get into spoilers after that. So let's see. This is a 2017 British horror film. I think you already mentioned all of this stuff. Written and directed by Jeremy Dyson and Andy Nyman. And apparently Andy Nyman also reprises his role from the play. So he played the main character, Philip Goodman.
Yeah, I didn't know who was in. I didn't know a single name behind this movie when I started watching it, so I was really delighted to see Martin Freeman in it because he's one of my favorites.
He's in Watson. He's in Black Panther. He's in Civil War and stuff like that. He's in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So yeah. Have you, by the way, did you look up the posters for this movie? Because you absolutely should.
I see the poster. I see the poster here on IMDb. Yeah, and I watched a YouTube breakdown of this movie after I finished it, and that had some neat looking posters in the thumbnail art.
So so the one that I see on Wikipedia is just like the red text with the black and white images and stuff like that. But there's some that I saw when I was looking for images on Google that are these more like character pieces. They're more colorful.
Yeah.
There is one of Martin Freeman, and he has like horns on his head, and there's like he is green skin, I think, and it's this like weird trippy stuff. I really liked those posters. I thought those were fantastic. But let's see here. So synopsis. Philip Goodman is the main character, and he is a paranormal investigator who likes to debunk these fraudulent psychics, and he has his own TV show where he does all of this, and it looks like it's more of a reality TV based thing than a like more produced actual show. It's more like, I'm gonna rush out on stage while this guy's performing and catch him red-handed.
Yeah, it's not like a docu series or anything. It really is just like there's somebody with a camera following him around while he runs out on stage like, "Ma'am, this man has not been speaking to your dead son.
He's been speaking to your Facebook page."
The audience looks heartbroken.
Yeah. So he's doing that, and then apparently, I guess you could say one of his mentors / one of the like well-known people in the field of psychology and stuff like that. He's gotten older, And he kind of presents these 3 cases to Philip, saying, hey, these are the only 3 that I can't solve. You need to solve them. And so he's like, well, that's weird, but okay, I'll take a look at them, I guess. And so that's what he does. He looks into these 3 cases to try and figure them out or solve them. And the story goes on from there. You have anything else you want to add to that synopsis?
I think we can give a very basic description of the 3 cases. Like, one is a night watchman who encounters a potential ghost that might be haunting the building. The second is a young man who's driving home from a party late at night through like a kind of forested area and accidentally hits a demon with his car.
Like one does.
And the third story, just demons running around the woods of England somewhere. Yeah. And then the third story is Martin Freeman alone in this big mansion, and he thinks there's a poltergeist there messing around with all of his family's stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think that about does it for the synopsis stuff. I don't really have anything else I want to add.
It's kind of tricky to talk very basically about this movie without getting into
spoilers.
Really what it's about. Yeah. This is a wild film.
Yeah. Exactly. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get on to spoilers. First and foremost, I know that our streams are kind of a little bit choppy here and there. There's not much we can do about that right now. I am streaming this based off of a Mac, and I upgraded to Catalina, and it messed up all of our stuff. So we are waiting for updates on that, but that's about all we can say. The second big thing is we have launched a new podcast, Crossplay. It is our video game podcast. So if you are into playing games and stuff, we will be talking about the latest video game news. We'll be talking about what we've been playing and stuff like that. That's been a lot of fun. Let's see, we are recording this episode Sunday afternoon. The newest episode of Crossplay, episode 2, will be out the day before this goes public. It'll be out on Tuesday. This one will be out on Wednesday. So be on the lookout for that. It's up on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play. And you guys can always find that as well as our other podcasts on our website, thewhatnauts.com. And if you guys have a podcatcher that you like, you can just search The Whatnauts, and all of our shows will pop up right there. If you like what we do, you can throw us a couple bucks at patreon.com/thewhatnauts. You guys can get access to the live streams of this show. You guys can also get early access to all of our episodes, exclusive content, and more. We do want to give a big shout out to our patrons at the $5 tier. So thank you, Sam, and thank you, Christine, for helping us out. We love you guys lots, and we hope you're having a wonderful Halloween.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ooh.
Whoa, spooky Halloween. Okay. Let's get into spoilers.
Yes.
Here we go. Melissa, you said something that I don't know if I agree with. At the start, you had said that you think this film does a lot of things that you really haven't seen many other things do, especially for a stage play, I believe.
That's the hook. The whole "it was all in his head" is a thing I've seen in a lot of movies. And again, as I also said, it's not that different. I can't name a play where I've seen that happen. And just that slight variation has me really intrigued.
Okay. Gotcha. Because I was like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've seen this before. This kind of thing, or at least have been exposed to this idea that, hey, you're exploring these cases, but maybe these cases are more about you than they are these other people. Maybe they're not even real. Who knows exactly?
Here's what I'm getting at. A play is not necessarily... That's not a medium where you get a lot of twists.
Right.
Like, there's plenty of whodunits
sure.
in theater, and there's twists within that as, like, those particular genre conventions. Like, well, we all thought it was the butler, and it wasn't the butler at all. But, like, like, there's no big twist in Death of a Salesman or anything like that. Your average play does not come with big twists. Which is
Turns
why
out he was a freelancer, not a salesman.
Movies full of twists. Plays typically not.
Right.
That's what kind of intrigues me about this.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, so then I guess to piggyback off of that, yeah, I don't know if I don't think I really liked this movie overall. It was, in my opinion, not strongly original, and I don't think it did a lot of the things that it was trying to do incredibly well. It did them okay. But yeah, the twist that I don't even know if it's one of those things of like, I don't really know exactly what happened because of this twist. Maybe the twist was effective in that regard, but it was more confusing to me than like, oh, okay, it's a
yes,
twist.
yeah. I get that for sure. Like, the twist, like, opens up a bunch of questions. You're like, I don't know if these have any answers. Like, I went back after watching this movie and read the YouTuber's recommendation, because this was the YouTuber. I don't know if I mentioned the channel name last week. It's called Rainbot. Rain, like when you rule over something, bot like a robot. And it's this woman who does breakdowns of like alternate reality games and like narratives on the internet mysteries, and this includes things like somebody's writing a Twitter feed as if it is their real life, but it is a supernatural story they are scripting out. Like, they've created this ghost story and they're just doing it like tweets is the format. Like, no, this isn't real. It's a scripted story. Let's follow the story beats. Let's see the threads, and let's see how everything escalates and how this is an example of horror storytelling, etc.
Okay.
So this was a YouTube community post from her, like a little blog post on her channel. And I went back and read this, and she had written, "This left my brain scrambled." I'm like, yep, that's exactly it.
So it's not only the twist, but yeah, like the name is really generic, which is kind of unfortunate.
It is.
It presents itself in this very, very serious manner. Like, hey, we are actually going to tell a horrifying story. Not like too serious. Like, I don't feel like it was try hard, but it's a serious enough manner. And then it has this weird twist, and then the end credits song is the Monster Mash. And it's just like, this is...
Oh my god, exactly!
What?
This put me right back to where I was last year when we watched An American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
And I thought that was more of a straightforward horror movie that had like a little bit of a dark comedic edge to it.
Sure.
And no, it basically is a comedy with horror themes. And there's this tragic ending where the werewolf like dies in his girlfriend's arm, and then it smash cuts to the end credits and they're playing Blue Moon. Yeah. This gave me that same sense of like tonal whiplash. And like sitting there watching the credits roll, like, did I just watch a real movie?
Yeah,
what happened to
that's
me?
Exactly it. It's this whiplash of just like, oh, it's this real sad tale about this family that their father destroys. No, okay, we're leaving that plot thread behind. Now he's a paranormal investigator taking on these 3 cases. He's taking this very seriously. Whoa, it's a twist. Maybe all of this is in his mind and he's just in a big coma. And there's the monster mash. What did I just watch?
Interesting choice. I want to talk about the thing. Oh, no. First, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Could you tell that was Martin Freeman under a bunch of makeup?
I could, yes. I
also
called
could.
that right away. Just like, that's his voice.
Yeah. Also, the Hulu description for this movie says Martin Freeman stars in. It doesn't say featuring Martin Freeman. It says stars in. We meet the main character. It's not him.
Yeah.
We meet this other main character who is an old man. And I'm like, well, I know this is going to be the
Martin
other main
Freeman.
character of the movie. That's probably Martin Freeman under a bunch of prosthetics.
That being said, though, I feel like Martin Freeman knocked it out of the park. He did fantastic in this because he has like 2 or 3 different roles. Almost, he has one where he is that old man. He is this like sickly old psychologist who is oddly, like, we don't know why he's calling this one dude of like, I hate your show, it's a piece of shit, you're a garbage investigator, here, take these 3 cases that I can't solve. Like, that makes no sense, but sure. And then there is his character as this like rich lawyer in the 3rd case, or the rich something, and his wife dies in childbirth, and he thinks he's being haunted by the poltergeist of his dead child, or his wife was there too. It's a weird thing.
No, like, the spirit appears like after he has taken his wife to the hospital. Nobody's dead yet when the spirit appears, which is... Well,
and
then it
spirit
seems
appears
later
to
like the spirit is his wife.
Yeah, because the spirit, we don't necessarily see what it looks like at first, but the first time we see it physically, it is his wife who is like, hey, I just died. And then he gets the phone call from the hospital. But
the spirit was appearing before she had died. And then we see ghost her, but it still feels like it's the same spirit, but it couldn't have been because she wasn't dead yet earlier.
Multiple spirits. Who knows? But yeah, so then after that, there is this twist that maybe all of these cases aren't real, and Martin Freeman is maybe more like the devil kind of thing. That's the vibe that I got from him, that
he's a good devil.
Yeah, he knocked that scene where he is finally like taking off all of the masks and all of that stuff is amazing. It's fantastic. And it looks like they almost do part of that scene. I would have to go back and look because I didn't. But the part where like after he rips off all of the fake skin and then he like wipes his hair back, it almost looks like he does the like Twin Peaks David Lynch thing where that was backwards. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because his hair's a mess, and then when he wipes it back, it's like perfectly combed and gelled, and there's all this stuff. So I'm like, there's no way he just like slicked it back and it was like that. It must have been like that, and then he ran his fingers like backwards in his hair to like mess it all up.
Yeah,
I would have to go back and look and see if he did that. But I liked that.
Neat
that
trick,
scene.
if so.
I thought that was pretty neat. But he knocks all of those roles out of the park. I liked it a lot.
I think this movie has some cool concepts in it. very like great performances. I think it does atmosphere well, but like there's lots of points where like the ends don't connect.
I think there's just a lot
Like-
of threads, period. I don't even want to say loose because they're just out there. Some of them connect, some of them don't. Some of them are just there on
Yeah.
top of it.
The thing
You know.
that bothered me, I liked this movie, even as confusing and kind of unsettling as it might be. I still like this movie, but what really bugged me is that the movie starts with footage from Philip's bar mitzvah.
Yep.
And he's talking about like faith and how faith can believing in something can sometimes be your worst enemy and like really turn against you. And showing footage of he's got this older sister he's really, good pals with. It's them just sort of laughing and joking around, and he's this very stern traditional father. And we see that at his bar mitzvah, like there's his sister kind of wearing more revealing clothes, like kind of dancing a little bit more provocatively. And she's like, Dad, come on, dance with everybody else. And he's like, no, I'm staying over here. Don't touch me.
I am a man of
and
God.
And then we see it in these in these various home videos, like we see her like, there she is with her brother at the beach, but then she's brought like a boyfriend along and she's making out with the boyfriend who appears to not be of Jewish descent. And then the dad's yelling at her, and it seems like he disowned her. And this, because they were so close, this had a real effect on Philip. And then we don't really see that's the opening scene of the movie. Yeah. That is scene 1. It's Philip monologuing over all of these home videos of him and his family. And then the sister does not come up. And like I was going into this with the belief that, this is his major trauma. Like he was very close to the sister, and then she was disowned. She ran away. Like she isn't in his life. And like, what is that? And then it turns out that it's the story of the boy who died, that the bullies like inadvertently killed, and Philip stood around and did nothing. That is the major trauma in his backstory. I'm like, okay, I can that's really effective. I can see how that would, really wreck your life. What about the sister though? Like, is there still anything with her?
It just disappeared. They don't mention it. Wild.
Mm-hmm. Like, I liked both of those things, but I wish they would have picked one.
Yes. Yeah. That's I think the
or
film
like made
would have really
both of them
benefited
actually work
from that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where like I liked the stuff at the start because it feels very personal. Right? It's like, hey, I was kind of set on this path. Like I come from a religious family where I should believe in things that I cannot see. That like I no longer believe in that because of how strict my father was. He kind of choked any religious faith right out of me. And so because of that, I've continued down that road to become a paranormal investigator, but they don't really drive that point home. And then they just drop it, and it's not a part of the movie anymore. And I would have liked to see, like, I was almost expecting some kind of murder mystery within the family. Like if the family was haunted, or the sister dies and is now haunting the mom or haunting the dad or something like that, right? Like that is what those opening scenes set me up to believe. And then we get entirely something else. And I think for me, something else you mentioned at the start of the film is that you thought it had ample time with the main character to like do all the stuff around these three stories. I guess not ample time, but like it's not about these anthology stories.
Yes. Like Philip is not just the framing device. He really is the main character. It is about him, and it just these are just things he is investigating, things that support the stories support him. He doesn't support the stories, which is why I think this isn't exactly an anthology film.
So I don't know if I agree with that either. I don't think there was enough of the main character. It was too much on these stories for me to really get attached to the character.
I wouldn't say so either. I'm just saying, like, structurally.
Sure.
Whether or not this is actually executed well. The stories are there for Philip. Philip is not there for the stories.
Yeah.
When you look at it just structure-wise.
Yeah, it was like I'm fine with him investigating these stories. I felt like they went too in depth in those stories to really, like, I almost could have had a whole movie about each of those stories and been totally fine with it. So, like, we have those 3 stories, then there's the story about his traumatic father, and then the traumatic death of that one school kid. There's 5 different stories that could have been their own movie in this one thing. And so I think that's partly why I'm just like, what are you trying to tell? Like, what story do you want to tell?
Yeah, it does feel a little overcrowded.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite of those 3 cases? Though that's what I want to know.
I'm going to talk a little bit about each one. The first one I recognized should be scary, but it wasn't hitting me for whatever reason. I think partially because I couldn't make logical sense about exactly where this guy was a night watchman and why he was watching it at night. So he mentions that this building he was a watchman for used to be a women's mental institution decades ago when nobody was treated well. But it's not clear, okay, what is this building now? Is it being refurbished? Is it being turned into something different? Why does it have a staff of several night watchmen? Like, I couldn't exactly figure out why he was there. Why is this your job? And then,
especially because the building seemed to be run down and abandoned. Like, it was just...
it's absolutely decrepit. He's not in anything that looks like a real livable room outside of the guard shack.
Yeah.
And also, like, because it's so dark, which does help the scary feeling of it, of course. And, like, I can't get a sense of space. Like, I can't tell, like, where the rooms are in relation to each other. He's talking on the walkie-talkie to a guy in another building. I'm like, I don't know how far away that building is. Like, could the guy run to him if he needed to? It was just the setting was kind of muddled for me. Like, it had all the scary atmosphere in the world. But I'm like, I have a lot. Please stop. Give me 5 minutes of Q&A about what the setting is, and then I'd like to pick up and continue, please.
Yeah. That one, it started off fairly scary, but I feel like that one relied on jump scares. I'm just like, there's the girl in yellow. And you saw her for a split second. And then, to the, like, weird, like, each story almost had its, like, weird tonal whiplash moment within itself, right? Where the guy finally gets the hug from this, like, weird dead zombie girl ghost thing that we don't know, and she just starts, like, crawling her fingers up the side of his arm onto his face. Like, what why? That just, it seemed comedic to me. Like, I don't know, it just it creeped me out to, like, see this young girl in this yellow dress, which also kind of reminds me of more, like, Cthulhu type of stuff, because there's a recurring character in a lot of those types of stories about a young girl in a yellow dress in H.P. Lovecraft stuff. So it's it's an image that I feel like is recognizable in horror stuff, and so just to see, like, a flash of of her in there, or to see this like weird room filled with all these mannequins, and there's one that's covered up with a blanket and it's slightly moving. Like, that stuff is pretty terrifying.
I wasn't scared. I was just confused because why would this building have a bunch of mannequins in it?
Yes,
It's not like the ghost manifested the mannequins. They must have already been there, but
I'm confused
why?
too. It's just, it's so strange.
Like,
of
you
just
can't-
like, why is this scenario
These are
even
two-
happening?
Like, these are two solid, scary things on their own. Abandoned mental institution and mannequins. But they don't make any sense when you put them together. Why are those there?
Right? Yeah, it made no sense.
And
what about story number 2?
Story number 2, this also had a complete tonal break for me, where so we see him when Philip comes over to his house, and it is this really like tense, unsettling atmosphere in the house where the parents are clearly like not paying attention to Simon, and Simon's like, they're a little nosy, like, what are you doing up there? But they don't like him. And Simon's like, yeah, they don't care about me at all. And so he's driving the car, then the parents call him and they're yelling at him, but it's not tense. Like, they're so shrill, it's almost comedic. It's like the parents were calling him from another movie. It's like the parents were calling him out of a Monty Python sketch. They are so shrill and furious. It does not match at all. It's not the right kind of angry parents that the situation demanded.
Yeah. And it, like, the first story, as you said, it's like you don't have a real sense of space, so it's almost claustrophobic, right? In the sense of like, here's this guy who's isolated by himself in the dark, and you don't expect him to start seeing things like that. Just like, they don't even have to be scary stuff of just like, sure, I would expect that. Like, if the movie went the actual like, okay, well, let's debunk these cases, like, that would be what I felt he would have said. He's just like, it looks like you've been doing this job for 20 something years. This is your life spent in this tiny ass room with no one and no lights except the ones in your room. Like, of course you're gonna start using your imagination to see what's out there, right? Whereas story number 2 was like, here's a young teen who has extreme anxiety, is on the verge of a panic attack at all moments. Like, he probably just hit a deer and that was it. And he's just like, he saw the antlers and was part drunk. Maybe he was on some mushrooms or something, and it's like he thought he saw a demon, or he saw this weird tree thing. And again, he's on some kind of drugs that's like, the tree is moving. What the fuck? You know? So it is this weird thing of like, I'm almost on the side of this paranormal investigator. Like, I don't see these things happening in, like, I feel like you're making this stuff up, right? I do have to say though, sorry, one more thing. I do have to say though that I think that second, like, the thing that scared me the most in this film, or freaked me out the most in this film, was the kid's parents, was the kid's family. Because when Philip arrives at this house, he hears them in the kitchen, and then he kind of like peeks his head in. He's like, I want to just see if, like, who is the mom here, you know? And the mom is just standing there. The kitchen sink is running. She has her back to Philip, and she's just standing there, arms at her side, perfectly still. Horrifying.
Yeah.
And the father is standing right next to her. Same thing. Standing still, arms at his side, facing the sink. And then the camera looks away and the door slams shut. And then he goes upstairs and there's this weird, like, in-home nurse up in the attic. We hear the footsteps of someone in the house. Like, there's all these weird things. Like, I don't know if his family is real. Like, I'm starting to think he's really imagining them.
I really like that initial mystery hook where, like, he's supposed to follow Simon up the stairs, but he takes a second and kind of peers into the kitchen to look at the parents. And then he goes up the stairs and he can't tell where Simon went. And it's like a 3-story house. So he starts going up towards the 3rd floor because he didn't see anything on the 2nd floor. And he sees, like, he hears that medical machine beeping and he kind of sees, like, the nurse's shoes shuffling around, like, between the crack underneath the door. And then Simon's like, "Where were you? I was in my room. Come on. We've got demon stuff to talk about." And Philip's like, "Who's up there?" And he's like, "No one. No, there's no, you want to go back up there and look? I'll show you. There's no one." And Philip's like, nah, I'm good. I'm just unsettled and I want to get this over with and leave. Right. I really liked that initial mystery hook.
Which and
then, of course, by the end of the movie, we figure out.
Yeah. I didn't put that together until just now that, like, oh yeah, he's, like, in a coma. Duh. Of course, like, hearing the machine is just something he would, like, if he is dreaming all of that stuff up, like, maybe that's something he would hear and incorporate in. Maybe he has a brief moment of lucidity where he just sees a nurse and it's a split second and then he goes right back into the coma. I don't know. Like, it's.
I like that a lot, and
strange stuff.
Around Story 2 has my favorite moment in the entire film, which is when Philip goes out to look at this place in the woods where Simon supposedly met this demon and this tree monster. And he's like, "I see a tree uprooted, but that could be anything. I see no evidence of the supernatural around here." And he's walking back to his car and he sees in his own car window himself, like, gray and blue, like a ghost, like, reaching out to him for help. Yes, like, he sees his own corpse in his car and he, like, freaks out and he opens the car door and this image of him just, like, it doesn't, like, poof, vanish, or fade away. It just slides, the reflection of it, like, slides away as the angle changes as he opens the car door. Yeah. Like, he only sees this corpse vision of himself in the glass at that right reflected angle. So he opens the door and he just, like, slides away. That was, I think, the scariest part, the coolest scare. Like, I really liked it. Just, like, because it's not what you think the movie is playing with. Like, it's kind of a jump scare, which we had some of in the first story, but that type of seeing your own corpse, like, that type of scare we had not gotten yet.
Yeah, and then story number 2 had that, again, had a weird tonal whiplash when the kid is in the car and the, like, Mama Damon or Papa Damon, who knows, gets in the back seat and it's just like, "Stay with me," and he's like, "Fuck no!" He gets out and he just starts booking it.
I did like that because that, like, the parents felt like they were calling from another movie. That felt like a natural thing that kid would do. Like, it felt appropriately comedic in this scenario.
It was just so comedic compared to this, like, there is this thing he hasn't really seen that is hunting him out in the woods, and then it speaks, and it's just like, "Stay with me, kid." It's like, "Hey there, bub, stay with me." And he's just like, "No, I don't want to. Getting the hell out of here." So, story number 3. Let's move on to that one. What did you think of that one?
I liked the setting in this one because it's a poltergeist story. It's a haunting story, more or less. Sure. But I'd never seen a haunting in such a contemporary house. This is not an old mansion. This is not a creepy, decrepit mansion. It is a brand new, contemporary, modern architecture house. It's probably a smart house. The thing was probably built 5 years ago, and I've never seen a ghost story set in a house that modern before. You'll see, like, a murderer story set in a house that modern. Murder can be anywhere. But just that slight difference of a ghost in a brand new place, I really liked.
Yeah. It was good. I think that also had a weird moment where I thought it was gonna be connected to the doll. Because again, during this whole thing, I'm looking for connections between the stories. Like maybe somehow this is all one bigger thing. And the first story had that girl in yellow, and the third story, the doll, was in a very, very similar yellow dress. And so I was like, oh. Maybe it's the same ghost haunting all of these people somehow, some way, or something. Yeah, and it just did not turn out to be the case. But yeah, by then we also have the weird, we don't know who this person in the hood is, but that's happening. Yeah. There's a lot that I think things are starting to oh, is that a connection? What's that? That's new. I don't know. This is just strange. What's happening? None of this is coming together yet. So
this movie has a lot of repeated motifs, but they don't really follow a pattern or lead to anything. Like, we see the image of the little girl in the yellow dress. She's the kind of ghostly spirit in the first story. And she's like the doll in the baby crib in the third story. But we don't get the pattern of 3. We don't get any closure on that. She doesn't show up again. It's not clear what she means or how she connects to anything in Philip's past. There's a theme of faith early in the movie. We get Philip's father's strict adherence to these very traditional religious values. We get, after he hears the first man's ghost story, he talks to his pastor, and the pastor's like, well, whether or not what he saw was real, we got a real result out of it. He came back to the church. He opened himself back up. He became a better family man after that spirit. Yeah. If the result is real, what does it matter what it actually was? And then Philip thinks Simon thinks he's being pursued by a demon. He's got all this very quasi-religious, artwork all over his room. And then the third story, nothing like that.
Yeah. Strange stuff.
There's
I really
repeated things all over the place and no sense of balance.
Yeah. I really liked... So maybe I'm stretching things here and just looking for a connection where there is not one. But if that first story was claustrophobic, I kind of got that same feeling while being in the room of the kid in the second story because of all the artwork he had on his walls. All of the space was just covered with these drawings and pictures of these demons and demonic symbols and stuff like that. So you get this really claustrophobic feeling. Also, when he opens the doors, are you sure you don't want to go back upstairs and look? And it's just black. You can barely see outside.
There's lights on in his room, but there are no hall lights. The hallway and the stairs are dark.
And then the third story, Martin Freeman's character talks so fast that he's just a mile a minute. The claustrophobia almost comes with his character of just he is nonstop. He is a busy man. His schedule is always full. He's just talking the entire time. So I like that. That might be a theme that sticks through the entire way, because then we see the traumatic experience of Philip when he was a kid, and he didn't necessarily
Yes,
watch the kid die, but there was a kid that went into this tunnel that gets smaller and smaller and smaller as it continues, and this guy looks like he has some kind of mental disorder or something like that. And he gets in there, and I guess he gets so claustrophobic that he has a stroke or a seizure or something, and just can't do a thing, and so he dies. But yeah, he's just like he's stuck in this tunnel. So that could be a theme in there. Like I'm wondering how much of this is based off similar experiences that the creators had in their own lives, of just like, hey, I grew up in a religious household. My father was super strict, so much so that it was claustrophobic, and they are somehow trying to put that in their work here, and they just have this like shared experience of like, oh yeah, my father was like that too, or I've had this claustrophobic experience in another way there. Who knows?
Yeah, and like what Philip has at the end of the movie is this locked in syndrome where he is utterly paralyzed, and it is not clear how much mental power he still has left.
Yeah. I don't know, man. This sure was a movie.
Yeah, I think I would have liked the twist. Okay, so Philip's backstory, treating this almost like it is the fourth anthology story of the movie.
Sure.
I think that's a very effective type of horror. Like, oh, is my camera frozen?
It is, yeah.
Beans. Okay, let me figure this out. But I think an accident is a very effective type of horror for me personally, more so than like a murderer or a monster or anything like that.
Sure.
Or some supernatural happening, just a simple human accident. Like, oh, it's going to be this prank on this boy. We're going to send him into, this old sewer tunnel, tell him to look for something. Whoops, he accidentally, like, had asthma and just had an asthma attack and couldn't breathe and suffocated to death 30 feet away from us while we stood at the outside of the tunnel. Like, accidents, I think, are very powerful, like very damaging things. I think because you buy it, because the same thing could happen to you, could happen to anybody. Yeah. So I buy the narrative trauma of an accident more than I would buy. I saw a ghost. I saw an alien. There was an axe murderer, etc., etc. I like that story individually. I can definitely tell how that would affect Philip for the rest of his life. Again, it just doesn't have anything to do with the previous stuff that has been set up for Philip. It has nothing to do with his family. And like everything had been based on his family to that point. And then it's the story about these boys that were bullying him and the other boy when he was a kid. And you see the flashes of things that were meant to set that up. But still, what happened to the family? It's like we've got two stories about Philip, and they never intersect with each other. We never really find out how one affects the other. And it seems like all the family stuff is kind of dropped when we get to this childhood accident that he had to witness.
Mm-hmm. And like, I think looking at this film as a whole, like I actually like the format, right?
Yes.
I think something like the Black Tapes that we already mentioned uses this format very adeptly, where it has this story engine to kind of like, hey, here's a ghost story of the week, or here's a new paranormal case that we can do. But I think it works better for more long form mediums of storytelling.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think this would work better as a TV show where we get time to flesh out all of these characters more and really get to know them and why they're doing these things, who they are. Maybe make some of these cases a little bit more believable, and not just like, why is he in this abandoned building that makes no sense? Why is, who knows? You know, that, or again, like I think maybe embrace some of the more comedic moments a little bit more, and play that up. And that's why I think it would still work fantastic as a stage play. And this is my ignorance of plays and stuff like that, because I haven't seen very many. But in my mind, like, there is something kind of inherently larger than life about stage plays, right? You have actors who are speaking louder than they normally would, who are trying to make sure that the people in the back row can see their emotions and their reactions and stuff like that. So it kind of has this inherent sense of, hey, I'm going to overact this thing, and it has a kind of cheesiness or campiness to it that I think horror often has too. But I think horror comedy, like, fits perfectly with that. Not that I think this needs to be a comedy per se, but just
No.
Again, like, I feel like this would work really well on stage. It just has these larger than life things, ghosts and poltergeists and demons and stuff like that. So
yeah, and the whole twist of it was all in his head.
it was
is not very original for a film. It's not very original for a film, but it is very original for a play. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how much this stands out from other films, but, like, I cannot name another play like this.
Interesting. Not that I would be much help, because, again, I haven't seen very many of them.
Yeah,
so.
and even I am, like, a play newbie. Musicals I know better. Straight plays I don't get out to see very much.
Sure. There you go. Let's see. If you had to recommend some stuff that you think people might like based off of this, if they liked this or if they enjoyed it, what else would they like? Of course, we already mentioned multiple times the Black Tapes podcast.
The Black Tapes has something that I wish this movie had, which is real investigation. Like, the most Philip does is talk to two people and go poke around the woods. Like, he's not doing any real investigative work. He's just turning on a tape recorder and talking to one or two people. I wanted to see him do, like, legitimate, all right, let's put science to the test. Let's prove that this is not supernatural. Instead, he just listens to somebody who's like, nah, that didn't happen.
Talk to the family members, talk to the police to see if there's a history of stuff happening out in the woods.
Run a test.
Stuff like that.
I would actually like to talk about a movie that is currently in theaters. I don't think I've ever done this before. So there's this movie called The Lighthouse I went to see last night. I think I've mentioned this to you before because I saw the trailer several weeks ago and I've been excited for this thing. Yeah. This is a kind of horror. It's more of like a psychological suspense thriller movie. And it is shot all in black and white in like a 4:3 aspect ratio. So it's a square. Like, it looks like a very old, like, 1930s movie.
Okay.
And the whole movie is Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson as two lighthouse keepers. The whole movie takes place in the lighthouse and on the surrounding parts of the island or the peninsula or wherever they are. They are the only two people that have speaking lines. They're the only characters in the movie, pretty much.
Sure.
And it's not narratively similar to ghost stories, but it is also a mindfuck.
Okay.
Which I recognize as an entire separate category of film unto itself. Like,
Right.
It is a wild ride from start to finish, and I think it is really successful at what it wants to do.
Interesting.
It doesn't take itself too seriously. Like, you kind of know exactly what you're going to get going into it. It's just how you get it. How you get these two men getting cabin fever and absolutely driving each other mad to the brink of destruction.
Interesting.
All the individual things that support that the premise never changes. It's just all the things that happen that support that premise. All the things that the premise turns into that happen. It is one of the most bananas times I have had in a theater. And it's like a little art house
Good.
movie. It is
Good.
playing at all of 3 places here in St. Louis, a major metropolitan area. So who knows your chances of finding it at a theater around yourself. But if you have to wait till it gets out on home video, watch this thing. Watch this thing. It's brilliant performances. It's such a beautiful, wild, weird movie.
Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. That's The Lighthouse. I want to recommend both The X-Files and Fringe.
Nice.
I have not seen much of The X-Files, though we do have a Patreon exclusive episode of the review show available at the $3 tier that we do dive into some X-Files stuff, because I had barely seen any, but I have seen all of Fringe, which is a lot like the X-Files, but with a sci-fi twist.
It's a lot more
horror.
Yeah, it's a lot more like, could science do this thing? It's like weird experiments, whereas X-Files is more like aliens, monsters, ghosts, supernatural powers, etc.
Yeah. But it kind of has the thing where like, hey, week to week there are multiple cases that they take on, and it is these weird, strange events. Sometimes they're scary, sometimes they're horrifying. Sometimes it's just oh geez, that guy was just really unlucky. But yeah, I kind of like shows like that have the investigative aspect, but then have this like overarching story like that. So I think those are ones to absolutely go check out, especially if you liked this film. You want some more like it. All right, I guess I should start pulling up my pitches.
Pitch time.
For this next week. Do you have any last things you want to say about ghost stories?
I think overall I do still want to recommend it. Like, it will, exactly like Rainbot said, this will scramble your brain. There are a lot of story leads it puts in that don't connect to anything. They don't establish a pattern or come full circle, so it's kind of a frustrating watch. But it is, and like the whole "it was all in his head" thing is kind of hokey at this point. But there's a lot of other stuff in there that I think is inventive, and it's just a neat movie to watch, even if just for Martin Freeman. Not to disparage any of the other performers, but like Martin
if nothing
Freeman.
else, go watch it for him. Yeah, because that one scene, the like transformation scene, is great. Okay. So we are moving on from our horror month. This is the last one in our horror month. We do horror year round sometimes, but I am getting away from that for this next week. No more horror.
You are too spooked.
I'm all horrored out. I'm too spooked. So pitch number 1 is a manga entitled Vagabond. And this is a Japanese epic martial arts manga series written and illustrated by Takahiko Inoue. and it portrays the fictionalized account of the life of Japanese swordsman Miyamoto Musashi, based on Eiji Yoshikawa's novel Musashi. So this looks like a samurai manga,
Okay.
It says, growing up in the late 16th century Sengoku era Japan, Shinmen Takezo is shunned by the local villagers as a devil child due to his wild and violent nature. Running away from home with a fellow boy at the age of 17, Takezo joins the Toyotomi army to fight the Tokugawa clan at the Battle of Sekigahara. There you go. I would like to read the first 4 volumes of that. That covers the first 2 story arcs of that. So that should be pretty interesting if you're into samurai stuff like that. That's pitch number 1, Vagabond, volumes 1 through 4. Pitch number 2 is a TV series. It's a British crime drama entitled Happy Valley. And this is available on Netflix.
Happy Valley?
Yes,
Okay.
Happy Valley. And it is a British crime drama television series filmed and set in the Calder Valley, West Yorkshire in northern England. Blah, 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 blah. There's 2 series. Both of them are 6 episodes long. So, Melissa, do you want to watch the first series, or both of them? Be a total of 12 episodes if we do both of them.
I would theoretically like to go for just season 1. With this being Halloween week, I think I will be kind of busy, going out and doing costumes and getting ready for a party I'm hosting next Sunday. So I'm not
stick
packed
to
with free time this week.
Season 1 then, and it says Catherine Kaywood is a strong-willed police sergeant in West Yorkshire, still coming to terms with the suicide of her teenage daughter, Becky, 8 years earlier. Kaywood is now divorced from her husband and living with her sister, a recovering alcoholic and heroin addict. Wow, she does not catch a break. Who is helping her bring up Becky's young son, Ryan. Let's see. Catherine soon becomes obsessed with finding someone, unaware that he is involved in the kidnapping of someone else. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read that in case of spoilers. So this cop who seems to have been beaten down by life quite a bit gets involved with a kidnapping case, I believe. Series 1 called Happy Valley. This sure sounds happy. And then pitch number 3 is an anime called Initial D. I have pitched the manga of this before. This is a Japanese street racing manga written and illustrated by Suichi Shingeno. And it is about this young kid. It says the story focuses on the world of illegal Japanese street racing, where all the action is concentrated in the mountain passes and rarely in cities or urban areas, with the drifting racing style emphasized in particular. Professional race car driver and pioneer of drifting, Keiichi Tsuchiya helped with editorial supervision. Story is centered on the prefecture of Gunma, more specifically on several mountains in the Kanto region. blah, blah, blah. And it follows a young kid who is not much of a driver. His name is Takumi. He is 18 years old, or at least he does not see himself as a racer. But it turns out his father has been kind of secretly training him without him really realizing it. And it turns out he's better than most people. So, racing manga, right? I guess the anime. So I wanted to watch season 1 of Initial D, which I believe is 26 episodes.
Okay.
Pitch number 1 was Vagabond. Pitch number 2 was Happy Valley. Pitch number 3 was Initial D.
You have pitched Initial D to me before. I'm sorry, I'm still not really interested.
That's A-okay.
We've covered this. I am not a car or spaceship person. Remember, we were just talking about Star Wars and everybody's like, it's got these ships. And I'm like, God, ships? I don't know. It's just a bunch of numbers and letters and machine parts, and all the machine parts look the same. I'm still not feeling that one. And I looked, the last 6 things I have picked from you, 6 things in a row have all been a comic or manga. So let's break away from that for a little bit. So I'm going to go with Happy Valley. I looked this up and it has really high reviews. So I'm kind of intrigued by this and how this plays out. It'd be nice to stay in Britain for just another week.
A little bit longer, yeah. Happy Valley, then, is what we will do for this next week. We will be covering season 1, which is only 6 episodes. Yeah, and it looks like it was all created, written, and directed by Sally Wainwright, all one person. So
that's nice.
Good stuff. It's always nice when one person has so much influence on the entire thing, because then it really does shine through that this is their vision of the stuff. Sweet. Well, that's what we will do for this next week. Don't forget to go like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
If you like what we do, go share it with your friends. In the meantime, though, Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WILKYWIT.
And I am at YoKyleSpringer on Twitter and Instagram. You guys can find us at the Whatnauts on Twitter if you guys want to stay up to date with us there. And we will be back next week with Happy Valley Season 1. This has been episode 81 of the review show. We will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out that show. We hope you enjoyed it. If you guys watched along with us at home, let us know which of the 3 ghost stories in that film was your favorite. We would love to know. That being said, in the meantime, go subscribe to our channel, which is right up there in that corner, and go watch one of our other videos right down here, because we got a whole bunch of other podcasts. Like I mentioned in the show, we have a brand new one called Crossplay. It's a video game podcast, so if that sounds like your thing, go check it out. Cool, thanks, bye.